illnesses are far more common than people think.
If you're sitting on a row of 3 to 5 people, I can guarantee you at least one of those people are struggling with mental illness.
But the thing is, people don't know because it doesn't have a face. You can't see it. You can look at someone and think they look completely fine on the outside, but sometimes that's really not the case on the inside.
I'm not a sad person. I'm not a person that just wants to sit in my house all day. I'm not a person that doesn't want to be here living my best life.
And my life on the outside was really great.
Probably could say that I lived a pretty normal life.
People will ask, like, well, what is your anxiety triggered from? What's going on right now? And the answer is, I have no idea.
When I first got married, I had some really bad anxiety issues. I mean, I went to the hospital 4 to 5 different times in a year thinking I was having a heart attack.
I'll get into a moment and then I feel like I'm like having to look at, okay, how fast is my heart beating? Is it going too fast? I'm about to have a heart attack.
I didn't want to leave the house. I was scared I would pass out or something bad would happen.
I couldn't focus on anything.
It's like being on a roller coaster that you can't get off. It's awful.
It was like this wave of emotion that would just overcome who I was, and it would block out everything that I'd set in my mind to do.
Like, you have no control over your emotions. They're just swirling around you and there's nothing you can do to stop them.
I felt like I couldn't function. All I would think about is like once the thought got in my head that I was becoming anxious, it just replayed over and over and over. And so I didn't know. It was like being trapped and being held down by these chains with no way to get out.
Sometimes I felt so overwhelmed that I just wanted to run away from my own body. Like, I did not want to be in it anymore.
And it is the worst feeling in the world. I mean, it is just like this panicking feeling, and I can't even explain it unless really you've done it. It's almost like if you ever imagine what maybe New York City would be like when traffic's going everywhere, people are everywhere, and you're stuck in the middle of it, and those people are actually just thoughts that are spinning around you.
It just kept getting worse and worse, and I just couldn't do anything. I felt paralyzed. It felt like there was just this darkness that would literally surround me and paralyze me where I couldn't move.
I guess things got pretty bad a little over a year ago. They were some of the darkest days of my life. I can remember some nights just driving down the road and just crying so hard I couldn't see the road in front of me.
And there were times where I didn't want to exist, but also didn't want to put any effort into doing that.
And I felt so alone. I felt invisible. No one could see me. No one could see the pain.
I do remember one night just being on the kitchen floor and just crying hysterically and just saying, this is just, I can't live like this.
And so over time, I didn't know how to deal with it. I prayed. I was like, God, get this stuff away from me. I don't like it. Rock bottom hit so hard that it was my last resort. That I needed a savior in that moment.
It was like I didn't even know that I didn't know it was coming. It was just like this snap of a sort of snap in my brain.
It was so much to try to handle. I didn't know how to handle it.
Little did I know that things spiraled, got out of control before I even realized anything was a problem.
And I was starting to lose my fight.
There were times where I would physically be in pain from the things I was feeling.
I was just so miserable with my life and with myself and everything.
I just thought, I want to kill myself right now. And the thought coming out of nowhere, it was so scary.
I was just I shouldn't be doing this. I should just eat nothing, and I should stop existing and just starve myself to death, because that would be easier than going through what I'm going through right now.
I can remember sitting at my kitchen table one day and just thinking, if this is what it feels like to be alive, then I don't want to be here anymore. Because surely it would be easier to be gone, and then I wouldn't have to feel these things anymore.
I didn't know if I could make it another day. I didn't know if my heart could withstand another blow. I sat on the floor for a good long while, just almost paralyzed. And I had all the thoughts running through my head of just being done.
Yeah, I was scared. I didn't know where to go and didn't want to end my life, but I was scared because I wanted to feel better and I couldn't get these feelings to go away.
It was usually on the road where I felt like I just wanted to hit a pole or let myself fall asleep, and I didn't really care about the outcome.
I felt like no one heard me.
I felt like such a screw up. Like all I ever do is walk into people's lives and mess everything up and then just walk right back out again.
A lot of times in situations like that, you just feel like a burden to people.
I thought that everybody would just be so much better off if I was gone, because then they wouldn't have to have me bothering them all the time anymore.
I remember calling a therapist one day because I just was like, I just said, I don't know what to do. I just feel crazy. And she says, do you feel suicidal? And I told her, I said, I don't think so.
I guess for me, it was always a possibility, but I never thought I'd actually go through with it. It was only when I'd get really mad that I thought I could actually do it, and that's what happened that night.
I knew if I didn't get somebody on the phone that I felt like I was going to be swallowed by that pit of darkness.
Literally in a couple of days, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, I don't want to live right now.
I wanted to be gone.
I just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Of just not wanting to be there anymore, not wanting to live.
I just didn't want to feel it anymore. I didn't want to deal with it anymore.
I wanted to end it.
And it would just all go away, all these feelings, and
I just wanted to be done with it all.
Because surely that had to be easier to be gone.
And that was the night that I ended up in the emergency room because I decided that my life was no longer worth living.
It's a temporary decision, ultimately, that has eternal implications. I wish that they had chosen to believe that there was better out there for themselves and to make better, to share their story. There was definitely parts of me that kept thinking, should I have reached out? Should I have done more? What I was feeling was just, while she was alive, I was scared every second of every day that something was going to happen. And I was fearful because there was nothing I could do. I wanted so badly to know what to do and for there to be something I could do to help. And ultimately, she ended up taking her own life, and I walked through a really dark time, wondering where she was, wondering if anyone had been there for her. There was a lot more life she had left to live that she didn't live, and I was mad about that. I wanted her to get better. I didn't want it to end like this, for her story to end like this.
Mental illness.
It's exhausting. It is exhausting because while a lot of people battle things in life, when you have a mental disorder, you're battling emotionally all the time.
It's kind of like this dynamic interplay of like which side of me wins.
I think a lot of times people don't understand how debilitating it can be.
It's literally like just being consumed by chaos. I can't even explain it unless really you've done it. The closest way I can imagine is like stick yourself in the busiest, most chaotic environment you can think of and probably multiply it by 10, 100 even. Before I know it, I'm thinking of like 30, 40 different things at one time, and it gets so overwhelming.
What people don't realize from the outside is people who deal with mental illness and things like anxiety and OCD, it makes it really difficult to do normal functions. Like even going to work is difficult for me.
It's a big deal. So I think even having a little bit of patience and grace is really nice when you're dealing with anything that's a mental illness. I wish the public would understand that it's a real thing.
You know it's real to you. And the fact that it's real to you makes it real.
A long time ago, I had a friend of ours say, I don't believe in anxiety, or I don't believe in mental illness. Like, I think you can control all of that stuff.
But it's not as simple as that. It's It's not as simple as like, why don't you just be happy, or why don't you start eating, or why don't you stop being anxious? There's a lot more that plays into it.
You can't just decide, I'm gonna wake up today and not have an anxiety attack.
It's like people are like, hey, you know, I know you're having a panic attack or whatever, just calm down. And I'm like, I can't calm down. Like, if you were in my shoes, you would know, like, it's not that easy. I wish if I could just turn it off like that, then there would have never been a problem.
But I think people think that you should be able to, you know, oh, think of something positive, you know, don't think on the negative. And I'm not always thinking negative when this happens, it just happens.
Mental illness is not a matter of will.
People want to fix it, and it's not an easy fix. I think that's probably one of the hardest things.
There's a lot of things that people say offhandedly that they don't think will hurt, and they don't really think about, but just aren't really appropriate for anything.
Words have so much power, and I think that's another thing that the general public seems to ignore, is the power that words can have in general on absolutely anyone. The comment, go kill yourself. Do students mean that every single time? No. Would they be traumatized if that person actually did kill themselves? Yes. So why do we say it? That one's more direct. That one's like, just don't say it.
But yeah, you hear different off comments and it kind of rubs you the wrong way because they don't really know what they're saying.
Just the whole like making jokes over mental illness. I wish that people could stop and understand that like that's not a thing that's okay, and it's harmful to people who do have mental illnesses.
Those comments for somebody like me, even just hearing them, can trigger me thinking those things about myself.
They may not mean it when they say it, but that's not something that I like to joke about because I know what it's like, and I don't think it should be made light of at all.
There's 100% stigma when it comes to mental health.
People get uncomfortable with things they don't understand, and so a lot of times they don't understand different mental illnesses and the nuances that come with them.
Some people don't know how to respond to mental illness because they don't know how to relate to it.
In general, I think that it's just kind of like they're trying to maybe tiptoe around you, and like they don't really know what to do, which is frustrating because like the best thing they can really do is just like be there and like be your friend.
I think people just want to know that they're seen.
And for somebody struggling with mental illness, that means everything.
Even acknowledging your lack of understanding is huge.
The reason people don't is I think they feel like it's easier just to ignore and brush it under the table.
Almost people like are scared of you in a way, you know, they think that you're not a normal, whatever normal is, normal person.
Mental health, it's not a plague. It's not something, you know, it's not a virus like, oh, I can't talk to you because I'm afraid I'm gonna get it too. You know, that
there's just like this judgmental kind of like, you're not good enough, there's something wrong with you.
You feel like if somebody knows, they're gonna think that you're not capable.
I thought everybody would think I'm crazy.
It feels very isolating that people are gonna look at you differently.
Like it's seen as a lot less serious and a lot more of like a you problem rather than like something you should get help with, which is really frustrating.
And so I wish the stigma would change and that people would take it just a little bit more seriously.
I know that there may be some people that stumble upon this in their darkest hour, and I know that right now it feels like there is no escape, that there will be no way to get through. What you're going through right now completely sucks, but I want you to know that you are an amazing human. You are kind, you are brave, you are smart, and there will always be people fighting with you.
You are important, like you're here for a reason. You're not alone.
There are big plans for you, regardless of what plans you have for yourself, even if you can't currently think about those plans. So I'd encourage anyone to think about every moment and to have a plan for every moment. And that plan being to remind yourself that there are plans for you.
And reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Know that mobile crisis number or know that suicide hotline number and call it.
If you're struggling with any type of mental illness, I don't care if it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, thoughts of self-harm, any of these things, like I just encourage you to go see somebody, go talk to somebody. I don't care what it takes, like just take that step. because you're worth it and you matter.
And I promise that it will not be like this all the time. I promise that there are better days ahead.
It's been almost 16 months now, and here I am sitting here, living and breathing proof that there is hope on the other side.
I've come this far, and so it's more difficult at this point to turn back around than it is to keep going. And even if that's like a small thing, it's still something.
You kick the dust off and you get to moving again, and we're all just moving and fighting towards a better day. You know, I believe in people. I believe in their compassion and their joy and their love, even when we can't see it.
For me, that's a big deal. It gives me hope because I plan to be here for a long time, and I plan to make a difference in the world.
I'm not fixed by any means, and I absolutely feel how easy it would be for me to slip right back into it. The difference is, quitting's just not an option anymore because I have so much more living to do.
I'm very young still, and there's a lot of time left, and this is only a very small part of my life, hopefully.
Your story is too bold to go left untold.
Choose life. Tomorrow needs you.
You matter.
You are worth it.
Keep fighting.
Stay.
Find what you were made for.
Be strong.
You're not alone.
You are enough.
Hope is real.
Help is real.
Every story.
Every story matters.
So I think continuing to collaborate, continuing to keep the discussions going is really the best way to affect the change and to reduce the stigma.
I think that in general, like just the more people talk about it, the better it gets.
And so I think publicly, if people just take a common interest in saying like, hey, I know this is a thing, I don't know anybody that deals with it, but maybe I should learn something about it.
We have to care more about how we talk about mental health.
Let's just, break past the stigma that something's wrong, and let's just treat each other like people. And that's what I wish people would do more of.
Shouldn't we all want that? Shouldn't we all want to create a better world? And well, if wanting to create a better world is looked at as crazy, I'll be crazy any day,